What's going on, everyone? My name is Harold Durana, and in this video, I want to talk about one of the biggest challenges that producers face when they start building a team. And that challenge is this: how do you grow a team without becoming the person that everybody depends on? Because in the beginning, when you're building, it's easy to become the hero. You're the one answering every question. You're the one training every new agent. You're the one fixing every problem. You're the one running every meeting. You're the one people call when they don't know what to do. And at first, that might feel good because you feel needed. But the reality is, if your team needs you for everything, you haven't built a business yet. You've built a bottleneck. And that's what this training is about. It's about moving from producer to builder. Building a high-performing team is not about becoming a full-time manager. It's about multiplying your impact through other leaders who can duplicate your process, your standards, and your culture. The goal is to scale without sacrificing your production, your income, or your sanity. So in this video, I'm going to break down the leadership structure that allows you to build a real team, develop managers, create duplicable training, and stop being the only person holding the whole thing together. Let's start with why team structure matters. A lot of people say they want to build a big agency. They want more agents. They want more production. They want more momentum, but they don't have structure. And without structure, growth turns into chaos. You can recruit 10 agents, 20 agents, 50 agents, but if there's no structure, no standards, no duplication, no leadership development, then all you really did was create more people who need your time. That's what I call the hero trap. The hero trap is when you try to do everything yourself. You answer every call, you handle every issue, you train every new person, you fix every mistake, you motivate every struggling agent, you run every meeting, you make every decision, and eventually your team stops thinking. They just wait for you. That's dangerous. Because if everything depends on you, then the business cannot grow beyond your personal capacity. You only have so many hours in the day, you can only take so many calls, you can only train so many people, you can only solve so many problems. So if you are the center of everything, then your team will hit a ceiling. Not because there is an opportunity, not because the agents can't grow, but because the structure is built around you instead of around a system. That's why we have to shift from the hero trap to the builder advantage. The builder advantage means you are no longer trying to be the person who does everything. You are building a structure that allows you to maintain personal production, develop future leaders, scale without burning out, and create sustainable momentum. The goal is not to become less involved. The goal is to become more strategic. You still lead, you still produce, you still train, you still set the standard, but now you are building people who can duplicate what you do. That is where scale begins. Next is the core principle. Lead by example, always. Now, before we get into the phases, we have to talk about the core principle. And that principle is simple. Lead by example, always. You cannot build a team based only on what you say. You build a team based on what people see you do consistently. Your team watches everything. They watch your work ethic. They watch your schedule. They watch how you talk to clients. They watch how you handle adversity. They watch how you respond when production is down. They watch whether you show up to training. They watch whether you still write business. So if you want your team to produce, you need to be a producer. If you want your team to train, you need to be willing to train. If you want your team to follow a system, you need to follow the system because you are the blueprint. That's one of the biggest leadership lessons right there. Everything you do becomes the template. If you are inconsistent, your team will become inconsistent. If you cut corners, your team will cut corners. If you don't track numbers, your team won't track numbers. If you don't show up to meetings, don't be surprised when they don't show up either. Leadership is not just about instruction. Leadership is duplication. Your team will duplicate what they see rewarded, repeated, and reinforced. So the non-negotiable standard is this: you write business first, then you teach business. You cannot teach people how to do something you are not actively doing or have not proven you can do. You have to be the best writer. You have to be the best trainer. You have to be the example. Not because you're trying to carry the whole team forever, but because your example creates the standard that future leaders will duplicate. Now let's go over the 5 phases of scalable leadership. Phase 1, write first, create cash flow. Now let's get into the 5 phases of scalable leadership. Phase 1 is write first, create cash flow. Before you build big, you have to build stable. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to recruit before they have created their own production rhythm. They want to build a team before they have built their own foundation. But if your personal production is not stable, building a team can actually make things worse because now you're spending time training people, answering questions, helping new agents, dealing with issues, but you don't have enough personal production or cash flow to support that growth. That creates stress. And stressed leaders usually become reactive leaders. You start making short-term decisions, you start over-recruiting, you start hoping someone else saves your month. You start depending on override income too early. You start resenting the time your agents need from you. That is not a strong foundation. Cash flow comes first because building requires investment. You need money for leads. You need money for systems. You need money for support. You need money for tools. You need money for your own stability. And beyond the money, production gives you credibility. Your team trusts what you can prove. It's hard to tell people to make calls if you're not making calls. It's hard to tell people to sit with clients if you're not sitting with clients. It's hard to tell people to follow the process if you're not following the process. When you are still producing, your leadership has weight. You're not just giving theory, you're speaking from the field, and that matters. Because if you skip this step, you risk becoming a part-time agent, a full-time trainer, and your income starts depending on everyone else's performance way too early. That is a dangerous place to be. So phase 1 is simple: write first, create cash flow, build stability, then build the team. Phase 2, training supports production, never replaces it. Phase 2 is training supports production, but it never replaces it. This is important because once people start building, they often swing too far in one direction. They either only produce and never develop people, or they spend all their time training and stop producing. Neither one is ideal. If you only produce and never train, you don't build duplication. But if you only train and stop producing, you eventually lose credibility, rhythm, and income. The key is balance. You are never completely off the field. You still need to take appointments. You still need to write business. You still need to stay connected to what agents are actually experiencing, because the field keeps you sharp. It keeps your training real. If you're not in the field, your training can become outdated. You start teaching concepts, but you lose connection with what's actually happening on calls, in appointments, with clients, with underwriting, with objections, and with follow-up. So the goal is not to stop producing. The goal is to create strategic training windows. Maybe you block 2 to 3 windows per week for training, ride-alongs, coaching sessions, or new agent development. That way you're not training all day randomly. You have structure. You have production time, you have training time, you have coaching time, you have leadership time, and now your schedule supports the mission instead of being controlled by emergencies. The bigger goal in phase 2 is this: build people who can train. Your job is not to personally train every agent forever. Your job is to develop trainers who multiply your impact. That's how you move from being the only source of knowledge to creating a team where knowledge is duplicated through other leaders. That's the shift. Training should support production, not replace it. Phase 3, find your next trainer. Phase 3 is your first real mission as a builder. Find your next trainer. When people start recruiting, they often think the goal is to hire as many people as possible. They say, I need 10 agents, I need 20 agents, I need more people. But your first objective should not be to hire 10 agents. Your first objective should be to find and develop your next trainer. Because one strong trainer is more valuable than 10 people who all depend on you. This is where quality matters more than quantity. When you're looking at new agents, don't just ask, can this person sell? Ask deeper questions. Can this person become a leader? Can this person coach and develop others? Do they show consistency and character? Do they embrace the training culture? Do they follow the process? Do they show up when they're supposed to show up? Do they have the right attitude? Because not every producer is a leader, and not every agent should be a manager. But when you find someone who produces, follows the system, has the right attitude, and wants to help others, that person needs to be developed intentionally. You need to set the expectation early. From day one, your top person should understand you are being developed to train the next wave. That language matters because now they don't just see themselves as an agent. They see themselves as someone being prepared for leadership. You are planting the leadership seed early. And when that person grows, now you are no longer the only trainer. You have help. That's how duplication starts. Phase 4, hire correctly, not quickly. Phase 4 is hire correctly, not quickly. This is one of the hardest lessons for builders because when you're trying to grow, it's tempting to move fast. You want more people. You want more activity. You want more production. You want more recruits. But if you hire the wrong people early, you can spend months cleaning it up later. Every person you bring into your team affects the culture. They either raise the standard or lower the standard. They either add momentum or create distraction. They either follow the system or fight the system. That's why speed can create chaos. Intention creates momentum. When you're hiring, look for 4 things. Number 1, alignment. Do they share the values and vision of what you're building? Because if someone does not align with the culture, they will eventually pull against it. Number 2, hunger. Do they actually want to grow? Do they want to learn? Do they want to build something bigger than themselves? You can train skill, but you cannot force hunger. Number 3, coachability. Are they willing to follow the process? Can they take feedback without ego? Can they be corrected? Can they be developed? Someone who is talented but not coachable can become a problem very quickly. Number 4, reliability. Do they show up? Do they do what they say they're going to do? Do they keep commitments? Can people count on them? Reliability is underrated, but it is one of the most important leadership traits because a team cannot be built on people who are inconsistent. So remember this, you are shaping your future team culture with every hire. Don't just hire because someone is interested. Hire because they are aligned, hungry, coachable, and reliable. Phase 5, build to 5 trainers and leaders. Phase 5 is build to 5 trainers and leaders. This is where the real unlock happens. Because scaling becomes easier when training is not dependent on one person. If you are the only person training, you are still the bottleneck. But if you have 5 active leaders who can write business, train new agents, lead by example, recruit, and develop others, now the team can operate without everything running through you. So what should these leaders be able to do? First, they write business. Consistent personal production proves they know the process. Second, they train new agents. They can teach the system, coach through issues, and help people get started. Third, they lead by example. They demonstrate the standard daily, not just when they are in a meeting. Fourth, they recruit and develop. They actively contribute to growing and strengthening the team. That's the target. You don't just want 5 people with a title. You want 5 people who contribute, 5 people who can train, 5 people who can produce, 5 people who can support the culture, 5 people who can help develop others. When you get to that point, you remove bottlenecks. The team no longer depends on one person. And that is when growth becomes sustainable. So now let's go over why multiple managers change everything. Now let's talk about why multiple managers change everything. When you only have one main leader, new agents have to wait. They wait for feedback. They wait for answers. They wait for help. They wait for training. They wait for someone to listen to a call. They wait for someone to show them what to do. And waiting kills momentum. New agents need support quickly. They need someone to listen. They need someone to help them understand what happened on a call. They need someone to help them fix mistakes. They need someone to help them build belief. When you have multiple managers, support becomes more available. New agents don't have to wait for the boss. They have multiple people they can learn from. Another benefit is multiple perspectives. Different managers have different strengths. One manager might be great at recruiting. Another might be great at product knowledge. Another might be strong at objection handling. Another might be excellent at helping new agents build confidence. Another might be great at systems and follow-up. When agents get exposed to multiple strong leaders, their learning becomes richer. They don't just hear one voice. They get a broader understanding of the business. Multiple managers also create constant coverage. If one person is on vacation, the system still runs. If one person is sick, the system still runs. If one person is focused on production, the system still runs. That matters because a real business cannot stop just because one person is unavailable. And finally, multiple managers create team-owned culture. The culture no longer depends only on you. Everyone takes ownership of the mission. That is how leadership becomes scalable. Now, this does not mean agency trainings replace manager responsibility. Agency trainings are important, but managers still need to do one-on-one time. That's where skill gets built. That's where relationships deepen. That's where agents get corrected, developed, and encouraged. So don't use agency training as an excuse to stop leading your people. Managers still need to be close to their agents. Next is accountability standard. Everyone computes. Now let's talk about accountability. The standard is simple. Everyone contributes. There are no passengers allowed. A manager is not just a title. A manager is a responsibility. Every leader on the team should help with training and recruiting. Period. If someone wants the title of manager but does not train, does not recruit, does not produce, does not coach, and does not show up, then they are not functioning as a manager. They just have a title. And titles do not build teams. Contribution builds teams. So you need a manager contribution scorecard. Track the things that actually matter. Are they attending and leading trainings? Are they having recruiting conversations? Are they producing recruiting results? Are they completing one-on-one coaching sessions? Are they maintaining personal production? Are they showing up consistently? Are they supporting the mission? Because what you inspect improves and what you ignore declines. If you don't track manager contribution, people will naturally drift. So there has to be accountability. And this leads to a very important rule, the earn your first agent rule. You never give a manager their first agent. You never give an agent to a manager who is not contributing. If a manager wants agents under them, they must prove they can train, recruit, show up, produce, and support the mission. Because what you reward is what you multiply. If you reward inactivity, you multiply inactivity. If you reward entitlement, you multiply entitlement. If you reward contribution, you multiply contribution. That's why you cannot give people leadership rewards before they demonstrate leadership behavior. Managers must earn the right to lead. From there, consistency equals scale. Now let's bring this together. Consistency equals scale. The system works when the process is consistent. You need a consistent process that creates duplicable training. Duplicable training creates predictable leadership. Predictable leadership creates easier growth. A lot of teams struggle because every manager does things differently. One person trains one way, another person trains another way. One person uses one process, another person uses a different process. One manager has standards, another manager has no standards. That creates confusion, and confusion slows production. You don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. You need a proven system that everyone commits to running the same way. That doesn't mean leaders can't have personality. They should. Different leaders will have different styles, but the process should be consistent. The standards should be consistent. The expectations should be consistent. The training path should be consistent, because when everyone follows the same steps, growth becomes easier and more predictable. That is how you scale. Now the most important part, your mission as a builder. So let's close this out with your mission as a builder. Number 1, write first, maintain your production, stay credible, fund the mission. You cannot build from a weak foundation. Number 2, train second, add training time strategically, build people who can train. Don't become a full-time trainer who stops producing. Train with structure. Number 3, hire correctly, quality over speed. Look for alignment, hunger, coachability, and reliability. Number 4, develop leaders. Find your next trainer. Build to 5. Create independence. The goal is not to build a team that depends on you. The goal is to build leaders who duplicate the process without you. That is the difference between being a producer and being a builder. A producer creates income. A builder creates duplication. A producer can win personally. A builder creates a team that can win together. A producer carries the business. A builder creates leaders who carry the mission. And if you want to build something that lasts, you cannot be the only person with the knowledge, the standards, the confidence, and the responsibility. You have to multiply it. That is leadership. So here's the challenge I want to leave you with. Look at your team right now and ask yourself, am I building leaders or am I building dependents? Am I creating duplication or am I creating bottlenecks? Am I rewarding contribution or am I rewarding titles? Am I still setting the example in production, training, recruiting, and consistency? Because the team will duplicate what they see. So if you want a stronger team, become the standard first. Then develop people who can carry that standard with you. Remember this, your job isn't to build a team that depends on you. Your job is to build leaders who duplicate the process without you. Keep the process consistent, keep the standards high, and scaling becomes a lot more predictable. If this video helped you, make sure you like, subscribe, and share it with someone on your team who is serious about becoming a real leader. I'll see you on the next one.